Huh? There. Oh.
Hey now, and welcome down to KC Toy Reviews. We are here today with Kingdom Come Superman by SSR Studio. And of course, this is from the very famous comic book arc, Kingdom Come by Mark Waid and Alex Ross. Now, this comic is actually hanging on my wall as we speak, so to say that I am excited is an absolute understatement. However, there are a few small drawbacks with this figure, and if you're at all curious what those are, well, let's go ahead, hold each other's hands, and dive right the hell goddamn in together. Alright, so here we are with Superman Kingdom Come by SSR Studio, and well, initial observation is this thing is fantastic. Very similar to a recent release, the Black Suit Superman, aka Recovery Suit, aka Regeneration Suit, aka Death of Superman Suit was absolutely a home run by SSR Studio, and this one is another fantastic release. But as I mentioned in the intro of this video, there is a few small drawbacks. However, before we get into those, again, let's just pause and take a look at this figure and say, how freaking fantastic does this look? Through the lens and in person, this thing is ripped straight from the comic books. Right down to the size and proportions of the character, with underneath being one of the stars of the show, the Fison, dare I say, the M35 body, and that is part of why this figure is so fantastic. The way the suit and the tailoring is done, it hugs the body perfectly and gives this thing an absolute fantastic muscular look, again, ripped straight from the comics. Nowadays, we are just saturated with Marvel and Star Wars by Hot Toys. It is very rare that we are getting comic book accurate representations of 1/6 scale figures. So SSR, you have done justice to the community by mixing things up and giving us a 1/6 scale comic book accurate figure. Now let's start with the chest piece. The symbol is one of the most iconic parts of these figures, and obviously one of the most detrimental parts of these figures, because depending on how you are applying these symbols, well, it can make or break the figure. And dare I say, whether it's SSR or other studios in the past, there are some figures where the symbol on the chest has made me extremely nervous for longevity. Now, I am happy to say, I don't know how the hell they did it, but this thing is very nicely imprinted on here. Whether it's sewn in or glued on here, it feels really, really nice. All the corners and all the edges are flat. They are down very appropriately, and it looks really, really sleek overall. And before we leave shot again, as you can see, the chest, how very defined it is and fills out the suit very, very nicely. If anybody's familiar with the Fison bodies, obviously, whoop, almost fell out there. Obviously, articulation's out of control on this guy. You're basically going to be able to do whatever the hell you want. Look at that pose, a little Mike Tyson pose there. Rawr, watch out there, rawr, I'm Superman. And due to the way the suit hugs the body and the fabric of it, I mean, dare I say, you can do whatever the hell you want with this thing. Probably won't be too much damage. The only damage that I could think of might be the body underneath over time. But overall, from what I've heard, the Fison bodies will hold up depending on whatever pose you put them in. Now, I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on the cape. Overall, it's a nice silky material. It has a nice presentation to it. It drapes over his backs very, very nicely. Of course, one thing to note, there is no wire in the cape anywhere here, so you're not going to have any type of dynamic poses with the cape. Whether we want to call that a miss or a drawback, I mean, that might be up for debate. In my opinion, don't skewer me, SSR. For the price point on this thing, shy of $400, I think including a wired cape really would have elevated this thing, given that you can articulate it however the hell you want. Could you imagine if we had a wired cape on this thing with the articulation that has been presented to us? I mean, Jesus, overall, that thing would probably be the craziest posable character on the 1/6 scale market, and I mean that. Now, at the same time, I'm not bashing it. There are a lot of figures, including Sideshow Batman figures out there, that are not coming with a wired cape. Is it a miss? Well, I think to this day, it's still kind of up for debate. However, I think every Batman and every Superman should come with a wired cape, because they are very rarely staying in a museum pose. They are always in some type of crazy pose, whether they're fighting or flying, and to really add and emphasize that look, a wired cape would just be too perfect. Now, before we zoom into the head sculpt, I just wanted to take a look at one thing that I see people griping about, and that is the skin tone difference between the head sculpt and the Fison body itself. Take a look through the lens right now. Again, it is really not that bad. We truly need to understand that there's not that many options of skin tones on the Fison bodies. Now, because of that, we are limited to the skin tones of the head sculpt, unless we are fully covering the bodies with some type of suit. So we can't drag SSR down too much because Superman might not necessarily be the exact skin tone of the Fison body, if all that makes sense. Now onto the head sculpt itself, which is probably one of my only gripes. And the definition overall could use some improvement. Now don't get me wrong, it doesn't look horrible. However, for the price point of these things and what we are seeing out there on the market, I think we could ask for a little bit more. If I were to truly separate the rating between the body and the head sculpt, I mean, the head sculpt alone might be, man, don't kill me again, but a 6.7 out of 10. You know, it is slightly flat, lacking a little bit of definition. The weight of it overall just is a slight drawback. And again, this is a minor gripe. Through the lens right now, it looks really, really good. But sometimes when we are crossing the $350 mark, we need to start tying in quality into these things. So perhaps the fact that this is the comic book representation and not a human representation, well, we can accept a little bit more of the flatness on the look of it in the paint application. But in the end, it still looks fantastic. It still ties together well with the body, with the tailoring, and I truly, truly mean this when I say this thing brings back amazing memories of reading these arcs as a kid. And then let's very briefly touch on the fact that SSR Studio has indeed included a 1/6 scale stand. And on top of that, we have the Superman logo branded right on top, Superman name right in front. Really can't ask for too much more. And as always, I definitely prefer a crotch grabber over a dynamic stand for longevity reasons. The only small gripe I might have is on the boots themselves. Now, the boots themselves are very, very flat looking in color, and then along the edges of the tops of the boot, it kind of reminds me of a Gundam figure when you're pulling the pieces off. There are tiny little white pieces that are around here that looks like this was probably pulled right off the 3D printer, and there is zero paint application to the boots. Now, in my opinion, again, for the price point, a slight paint application, whether it's just an overall matted look or some shadows into the boots there, because the boots are a Marvel Legends-ish quality, and not that they're horrible, it's just again that there's no definition whatsoever to them. They are just a really simple red straight off the 3D printer boot. Alright, so there we have it. Now, as we start to wrap this up and slap a final score on this guy, some final closing notes. For starters, well, overall, this thing is absolutely fantastic, and similar to the regeneration/recovery suit version by SSR, dare I say these are probably two of the definitive and best 1/6 scale Superman that you can get on the market right now. And of course, with that said, well, that price tag comes at a premium. This is around $350, if not a little bit more, with the shipping included. And we should also note there is a deluxe version that includes this and the overall version of Superman with a bearded head sculpt, and that thing's probably running in at around $550 or so. Now, is the quality there? Yes, this is great quality. Does it match up to $350, $400? Well, in my opinion, that answer is a complete debate. I know other 1/6 scale makers, and I'm not going to name their name, that are making Batman figures that are like $800, $900, which in my opinion, based off of the pictures and what I've seen as far as quality control, is absolutely outrageous. So the fact that SSR is pumping out Batman for around $220 to $250 and these fantastic Superman for $350, well, I guess it's a testament to the custom market, because these are decent prices for custom figures. And again, we need to stress this is basically a custom figure. These are handmade. So I highly doubt there's this huge margin where they are millionaires making these figures. So please keep that in mind as we are talking about this and the nitty-gritty of these reviews. We just need to mention kudos to SSR for creating a 1/6 scale comic accurate figure that is ripped straight from the Kingdom Come comic book arc. An older, weathered version of Superman. We couldn't ask for too much more. Could there have been a little bit more detail and emphasis on the head sculpt? Yeah, and same thing with the boots. Just a slight improvement or something more to those boots to add a little extra oomph. And of course, there is no wired cape, but again, that is more of a debate question. Not all 1/6 scale figures with capes are coming with wired capes, so with that said, it is not a market standard. But we're talking about Superman. Very rarely he is standing in a pose that we see. He's flying, he's battling, he's doing something crazy. To have a little bit more of an edge on the cape and a dynamic pose would have really elevated this figure. But the tailoring is top notch. It fits that body fantastic. The muscles, the look, the feel, the fit is just fantastic. We got a stand, we got a comic book accurate Superman. I couldn't ask for too much more. So with all that said, as far as a score, and very rarely do I come in at a rookie score, and this might be the first one ever. We're always doing decimals. Rookie scores are a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but on this one, I'm gonna go with a 9.0. That's right, a flat 9 on this guy. Not a 9.1, not an 8.9. What came to mind is a straight 9. And this is history for KC Toy Reviews. Now again at a 9.0, this thing is fantastic, and as always, do we suggest it? Yes, I highly suggest it, because when this run is done, it is done. And the likelihood of you getting a 1/6 scale Superman from Kingdom Come over the next few years is probably slim to none. With a 9.0 out of 10, 9 out of 10 rookie score, KC Toy, we are going to sign off here today. SSR Studio, you have done justice to the community again with a comic accurate 1/6 scale figure, and we thank you. So that's going to be it for us here today at KC Toy Reviews. 1/6 scale Superman, Kingdom Come Superman, fantastic articulation, gonna fly today.